Welcome to the OCR World Championships Saturday night post-race show. We're coming at you live from the lodge tonight here at OCR World Championships. I'm Margaret with Mud Run Guide, and not with me tonight is Brad Cloha of OCR World Championships. Brad is actually still out on course prepping for tomorrow's team race that we're going to get into in a little bit. And instead, I have Joel Getty from Inside Obstacle News with me, and Joel's been helping us out at Mud Run Guide all day, and it was kind enough to come in and talk with us tonight and help us out. So welcome, Joel.
Absolutely, thank you. Great to be here.
And I didn't run today. Well, I think I ran a lot today, but I didn't run on the course today, but you actually ran on the course today. So before we get into all the results, tell me a little bit about what this course was like and what the race was like for you and what the racers saw out there.
This race was, in one word, brutal. The terrain was very steep hills, not too long, but very steep. Lots of rocks, ravines, lots of riverbed running. We crossed the river a couple of times, lots of cold water. The early race was pretty cool, but I ran in the afternoon, so the sun kind of heated things up. The multiple platinum rigs and some of the larger obstacles really took people out left and right, but a lot of people stuck with it and finished with their bands, myself included. So I was able to complete all obstacles, and it was really special. I mean, there was a lot of cool camaraderie on the course. I mean, we weren't helping each other, but we were encouraging each other. And so I really enjoyed the course. It didn't suit me in terms of how long it was. My GPS brought it in at about 8.5 miles, but I'm pretty sure that was wrong. It was longer than that. They clocked it at 10 miles, and that seemed fairly accurate. So longer than what I'm used to, but definitely an awesome race.
Awesome. So how long are you gonna have that band on, do you think?
I'll
are you ever taking
for a
it
couple
off?
weeks, just show it off. Obviously, people at work aren't gonna know what it is, but everyone around here knows what it is, and it means a lot, And I talked to Garfield afterwards, and he said to me he was not out here to cut bands. He was out to give people that drive to really want to accomplish something awesome.
Yes.
And then that joy that you get when you finish and you still have that band.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no shame in finishing without it. Some people just didn't have it today, and it was cold, and your grip goes, and it was a massive challenge.
Exactly. And for those that weren't here this morning, it was definitely below freezing when we got going. Anyways, so let's get into. There were so many amazing moments that happened over the day today. It's almost like a whole weekend or happened all at once.
Absolutely.
And we could sit here and talk for hours about all the individual things we saw, but let's start off with the age groups, because the age groups really, that's where the excitement was for a lot of the race. It was really cool to see people, sometimes for the first time, standing on the start line with only people in their age group. Because what other races that happen?
Yeah,
in obstacle racing.
And that was really unique. While I was out on the course, you kind of knew all the guys you were with, and occasionally a different age group would go by, but you pretty much knew, okay, that's, a 20-year-old female.
Yes.
She's obviously not racing with me. And then, some of the 40-year-old dudes blew by me pretty quick. So I knew that I wasn't going to catch them or anything. But it was neat, to have that sense of, togetherness with your group.
Definitely. Speaking of groups, so I think you have some of the results from some of the age groups today, and we're just gonna quickly go over the age group results for the podium. If you want more results, go to the Mud Run. Sorry, we're live. Wow. Go to the mudrunguide.com/OCRWC webpage, and you will find all the results and links to all the results. Some of the results we say are coming from J-Chip, but don't have all the penalties in yet. They are still tabulating numbers as we speak, crunching numbers. So look for the final results on OCRWorldChampionships.com in the next day. But let's get going with what we have.
Okay, so starting off, we're starting off with men's 13 to 17-year-olds, and last year's winner of that category was this guy, Bean Bob. I'm not sure of his last name because it wasn't quite listed yet. And then second place, Caden Kopko. And let me move on to, it's a map, sorry. BC. Anyway, so the next category is men's 18 to 24. And that was, coming in first, Gregory Averinos. And
Greg Averinos actually came in second place. So that is one that J-Chip hasn't updated quite yet. But let's keep going with that.
And then the other one listed here as second place, but was that guy then first? Christopher Peterson Skonord?
It was actually Ludwig, who we had on the show the other day. He came in first. From Sweden. Sweden was a very popular age group. They found a very popular country in the age group category today. They found themselves on the podium in almost
every age group.
So Greg Averinos was from South Africa. He was in second place, and in third place was it this Austin? Yes, yep.
Okay, Austin Azar.
All right, so let's move on to the women in that age group.
Okay. So females in that age group, 18 to 24, we have Ida Steensgaard. And then second place was Linnea Iverson. And third, Michelle Meyer.
Awesome. That's excellent. So let's move on to the next age group. Who do you have next up for us?
So men's 25 to 29, Brian Gowiski.
Who had one of the faster times of the day, actually, but he probably could have been up there in the elite heat, but instead chose to run in his age group and took home a new age group world champion position.
Absolutely. Then we had Victor Quesada.
Yeah.
And third was Robert Wiltshire.
Yes. All right, who's up next?
So now we have the females, 25 to 29. With Sarah Trolte, second place Anna Svensson, and third was Nicole Duquette.
Excellent.
And moving on to the men's 30 to 34 was Krister Selman, then second place Ben Kinsinger, and third was Ivan Santana.
Okay.
Should I be reading these countries out as well, or just kind of?
Yep, you can read them if they have them there.
All right, and so now females in the 30 to 34 category, we have from Florida, first place, Ashley Samples. Second place from Western Cape.
Yep, from South Africa.
Oh, okay, Dominique Dolvira. And third place was Laura Newton. Is that Australia?
Yes.
Okay, yes, from Australia. Because it's listing people's towns, and so that's a little tricky to guess what town is in South Africa. In my category, the men's 35 to 39 was Dermot Fitzpatrick in first place, and David Hassert in second place. Third place was Andreas Jamber. All right. In the same category for the females was Jetam Ribink and Kathleen Lanfear in second, and Linda Hallstrom rounded out that category for the podium. So moving on to the men's 40 to 44.
This was probably the most widely talked about age group before the race, and one of the age groups that actually sold out. So this was a big one to watch.
Yeah, so in first, we have Ethan Nadeau. And second place was Joel Fox. And in third was Lance Reed. And that was probably one of the only podiums that was actually All-American.
And most of those guys found their way onto the podium last year as well. So it was almost a repeat of last year.
So pretty fast category for the Americans, thank goodness. And then in the women's 40 to 44, we have Elvie Lapointe. And second place was Kylie Alderson. Third place was Cynthia Campanero.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see the page. All right, for the men's 45 to 49, from my state of Pennsylvania, Tad Morris in first place. Second was Brad Benter, and third was Stephen Keith. Moving on to the females for that category. Of course, Deanna Blake repeats.
Mm-hmm.
And
Deanna had originally, she was going to run elite, and then decided a little bit ago that she actually wanted to switch to age group. So that was definitely a positive change for her.
Yeah. So then in second place was Tracy Bevan. Third place, Elena Duskaya.
Excellent. I think we got, what, 2 more age groups to go?
Two
We're
more.
almost there.
So in the 50 plus for the men, we have Ian Loa Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Second place, Thomas Deaver. And third, Darcy Barrett.
Darcy, I remember, was also on the podium last year, so he's still doing very well in his age group.
Okay, and then now this one, I believe, for the females 50 plus, I'm going to switch this up a little bit because I believe what happened at the podium when I attended the awards was this Heidi Williams, who's showing in fourth place, but actually apparently she was one of the only female. She was the only female in that category to keep her band.
So that's all we have. We just have
that's all we
one.
have. Yeah, so we don't know. I guess you're only eligible for awards if you keep your band, right?
Yeah, definitely. And as we said, all those results we just gave you are still being tabulated. So they are close to official. We're getting there. Not quite there yet, but check on Mud Run Guide, and for the final official results will be on OCRWChampionships.com. Hopefully tomorrow, but I know that they are literally still checking through to double check all the penalties and make sure everybody's in the right spot where they're supposed to be.
Absolutely. So that's our age group categories. What can you tell us about?
We've got the elites now.
Elites.
So we only really crowned one new world champion this morning. One remained the same. But it was an exciting race.
Absolutely.
This morning was incredibly exciting. I'm going to start with the women first, and then we can go on to the guys. But I got to speak with basically all of the top women and men that raced today, and kind of got a little insight into their races. So our new world champion for women is Lindsay Webster from Canada. Claude Caput, she was in second place, and in third place was KK Stewart Paul. So amazing women, which I think if we look back at video from the other night, I think I called all of those women, but I'd have to look back and see what we watched. Claude and Lindsay ran most races together. Although their finish times ended up being a little bit further apart, I was told Claude said it was awesome. She and Lindsay actually pushed each other and piggybacked off of each other the entire race.
Oh, yeah.
They got to the rope climb, and that's where Lindsay got just a bit ahead of Claude, and that was just enough that she didn't falter at all.
Yeah, so she opened up a gap there, and it never got closed. So there was, from the parts of the race that I got to see, there was at the beginning kind of a group of 4.
Yes.
With the UK's
we had
Freya.
Freya Martin was in there, and she was doing fantastic. She had a little bit of a problem when she got towards the end. It was tip of the spear. Freya actually, she was on tip of the spear for about, I think one of the volunteers told me about 4 or 5 times she tried tip of the spear. She finally got tip of the spear, and actually had tears of joy in her eyes as she kept going.
And one of the things about her too is that in the UK they don't have a lot of these rigs, and the rings and some of the harder, more upper body focused obstacles. So it was her first time on some of these obstacles, whereas some of like Lindsay and Claude,
and KK's run a couple Battle Frogs this year as well.
And the Battle Frog heavily features some of those same obstacles that were here today. So.
And speaking of KK, I have to mention KK's finish was amazing. KK left everything out there on the course today. She crossed the finish line and literally collapsed. Yeah. She collapsed onto the ground. We actually put some photos up from today online, and there's a photo of KK laying on the ground with an American flag over her, and she gave everything she had out there on the course. So it was amazing. Rose Wetzel finished in 5th place, another favorite. Rose said that this distance for her is a little bit longer than she likes to go. Like Joel, But she said that this was an awesome race, and I spoke with the other racers that finished a little bit further back, but were some of our picks, and those that maybe haven't done many mandatory obstacle completion type events before. And they said this was a really neat and different way for them to run. So hopefully we'll see more and more coming into this arena as we sort of move ahead.
I talked to Corinna afterwards, and she had battled the platinum ring last year, and it was a real point of soreness for her. She really wanted to do it this year, and I got to watch her after a couple of tries actually beat it, and that was really cool to see her kind of get that vindication to come back and and to finish. So she didn't get to finish as well as she wanted, but she kind of did kind of put a ribbon on that one and stamp it. So
there are a lot more smiling faces, I think, on the women's side this year. I don't have full stats as to what our success rate was overall, but based on the smiles, I would say it was a lot more than the 20% we had last year on the elite women's field, and 18 overall.
Yeah.
Let's move into the men's race, and John Albin is once again the OCR World Championships. Now he's the 2014 and 15 World Champion. John pretty much destroyed this race.
He did.
And I've talked with him. Actually, I talked with him in Lake Tahoe. And in Lake Tahoe, he said, "Well, I don't really know. I've had some injury, a few little tweaks going on. I haven't run a lot."
He was worried about the altitude
there, and then even here, he said, "Well, I haven't really been running. I've kind of been resting for a long time. So we'll see how it all pans out." But John always says this.
Yeah, he says that, but he did win the toughest race last week.
He did. He did.
So I don't know what he's talking about.
So he said that he hasn't been putting in the miles in training, but maybe that worked. That was a good strategy because he came into the gauntlet area and Dragon's Back, the toughest obstacle, which was about mile 3 of the course. He was already 2 minutes ahead of the rest of the team. There was some chatter on the radio that people almost didn't even see him come through. He was so quick.
Yeah.
And so then by the end of the race, he won by over 4.5 minutes. So he made up another 2.5 minutes throughout the rest of the course. It was amazing.
Yeah. So he maybe kind of like peaked better for the rest of this race. And that's what Lindsay said to me earlier too, was like she kind of accidentally peaked for this race. She was hoping to peak for Tahoe, but she ended up, just doing a great job today. And John did, obviously. So and a great tidbit was, Lindsay Webster, as most of us know, is the fiance of Ryan Atkins, who we can talk about next. Yeah. But Lindsay is used to sort of walking around and everybody wanting to take pictures with Ryan. Right. Today, she said for the first time, people were sort of coming up to her saying, "Can I take pictures with you?" Yeah. So she's still kind of trying to get comfortable with the OCR Women's World Champion title. But she's been all smiles, and ever since she crossed the finish line, I think she's still kind of pinching herself. Yeah. But let's move into Ryan Atkins, 2nd place finisher. Ryan, once again, probably one of the most versatile
obstacle racers out there.
Oh, yeah.
He takes home another second place prize. Sorry, all we have been up since before 6 a.m. this morning and came right from the course to here. So bear with us. But Ryan said the course was great. He loved it. And John and Ryan, both, the cold didn't bother them at all.
Yeah.
John actually said when he got into the water for the river crossings that he warmed his hands up in the river. Now, you were in the river, and he said that it was misting when he was in it because the river was so much warmer than the air.
It was really cold this morning. It was like 32 degrees, 0 Celsius for all those world.
For the rest of the world.
Yeah, for the rest of the world. But when I got there in the afternoon, it had much warmed up. And so the water in the river was sort of cold, but I think the water in the actual obstacles, like at the end of the slide and some of the other dunks that you had to do in the pits that were dug out, actually that water seemed a lot colder, especially the over-under logs that we had to do. A lot of people were having a hard time with that because the logs that you had to go over were so high. And so some of the shorter women were sitting in that water for long periods of time trying to get over these logs. And, you know, some people were getting hypothermia. It was a pretty brutal obstacle because of the cold and because people had to kind of sit in the water trying it over and over. So that kind of water for me was definitely colder than the river itself.
Interesting, yeah. So Ryan pretty much ran a flawless race as well, but obviously John just destroyed this course. But let's move into third place, Cody Moe. Cody Moe came in third in Tahoe at the Spartan Race World Championships. I was talking to him. He actually had to leave and fly. He's probably already back in Utah right now. But Cody said that he was a little bit disappointed with his third place finish in Lake Tahoe. He said today, on the other hand, it was a whole nother story. His third place finish, he said he was very happy with it, that this course was no joke. And he said he got to some of the obstacles because he's primarily, you know, a Spartan racer. He came to some of these obstacles and he said he had to stop and figure out what he even had to do. He had never done obstacles like this before. It just shows that Cody's a extremely versatile athlete. I have one other guy that I know that Brad and I talked a lot about, and a lot of people have talked about in the last couple weeks. Robert Killian. Robert actually ended up finishing, I believe it's 80 something. He totally got, his story is pretty amazing. You know, he got to the first platinum rig. Never seen an obstacle like that before. Maybe Spartan rig's not quite like platinum rig. You can't really compare those two rigs. But he got there. He failed it. I think it was about 5 or 6 times, and then hypothermia started to set in. So Robert was literally shaking with a mylar blanket over him. He somehow got himself moving fast enough, got himself through the platinum rig. At this point, he was probably about 45 minutes behind the top guys. So he's completely out of contention. Many racers would just simply say, I'm done. I'm done. That was a fun little experiment. Let's go home. Robert kept pushing, raced all the way to the end, finished with his band, and stuck around all afternoon to talk to people. It's a class act.
I got to give it to people like that with this persistence, because when I went through, and especially like the last obstacle before the half pipe, the Skull Alley.
Skull Alley.
So brutal.
I think last year it was the platinum rig we were talking about. This year it was Skull Alley, not because it was the
hardest.
Skull Valley, not because I always want to call it Skull Alley. I'm sorry, Brett. I'm sorry again. It's Skull Valley, but Skull Valley. And what I talked to some athletes when they were running through, they said it wasn't that Skull Valley was so hard. It was that they'd smoked their arms and their grip strength on tip of the spear and a couple of the other obstacles leading up to that one.
Exactly.
So by the time they got there, they were just gassed.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it was inspiring, especially the age group athletes.
Mm-hmm.
There were athletes that were there for over an hour and would not.
Scott Keneally.
Yeah.
He was telling me.
We actually have some guys
Tom.
sitting here in the lodge with us, and they and raising hands, and I'm getting nose to the. So this is what they experienced out there, but just kept going.
Oh yeah.
They had the Mylar again, the heat blankets on, and just kept going. And I'm looking at a band pointed at me.
That's awesome. And
So
that persistence just is amazing to me, because I was thinking in my head, I got to do this the first time, because if I have to go back, I'm going to probably drop out. But that's the hardest part about that obstacle, is because it was at the very end. You've still got your band. You've conquered everything else up until that point. And so to walk away from that is just brutal. And so the people who stay there for a really long time, I gotta say, gotta hand it to them. Amazing, huge props that you were persistent and got through it. Congrats.
Definitely. And huge props to, I gotta say, the journeyman and journeywomen division, some of them are still out there finishing right now. Well, hopefully they're off the course by now. But when we started the show, there were still some racers out there getting ready to finish their race. So they went off at 2, so that's 6 hours later and it's cold here. We've got the fire behind us still.
It got very cold,
very
fast.
And they're doing it. So hats off, as Coach Payne said, everybody is a champion here, although we do have champions too that we get. But everybody that took on this course today definitely was challenged. I heard rave reviews pretty much across the board. Yeah. I think maybe a few people thought it was a little cold, but you can't blame Garfield for that one. No,
and then the only people who said it was easy were like the top people who do this every single weekend.
Or have a rig in their backyard.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt.
So I guess actually we've got a couple guys in here. Do you guys have any questions or anything to add tonight?
No, I thought it was a great course. I loved it. I mean, good mix of obstacles and terrain. Terrain here is great. Again, and last year I came away with such a great experience. This year it's even a better experience. I mean, I was worried it wasn't going to top what it was last year. It has. It's just what Adrian has done is amazing.
So if you couldn't hear that, basically what we just heard was last year was great. This year was amazing. I don't know how we're going to top it next year. We've got Adrian and Co has a year. I do have to say, I think last year, before we close up the show, last year we saw a lot of tears of sadness on the course among many racers. This year I saw a lot of tears of joy of people finally getting that obstacle, coming back. They failed it last year. They trained all year. They came back and they conquered it this year.
Yeah, and I think if I had a theme to put on 2015 for obstacle racing in general, it would be grip strength. Like, nobody talked too much about grip strength last year or the year before, but then you have these introductions of platinum rigs and a lot more upper body stuff where they just wore your grip down over the course of a course. And so grip strength, I think people kind of came back from last year and said, well, I got to improve my grip strength. So if you're, grip strength, everyone.
Grip strength. So we still have another day of racing. Tomorrow is the team race. At 9 a.m. the elite men go off, elite men teams. At 9:30 a.m. the elite women teams go off. 10 a.m. the open men teams go off, and then at 10:30 the open women teams go off. I know that Garfield and Adrian and crew are actually making a few minor adjustments to the course, a few heavier carries for those
for the strength
guys. The running sections I think are staying the same. I haven't heard it all yet, but I know a few of the obstacles are being changed up tonight to make them more team oriented. And
the only one I know of specifically is there's supposed to be a double bucket carry.
So that's the rumor on the street.
Get ready for the double bucket carry. Now there might be handles this time instead of just a straight bucket like we had today, but
you never know.
You never know.
We will see you guys tomorrow here at OCR World Championships Sunday. And then tomorrow night, we're actually going to have another live show recapping what happens in the team race, some other highlights. Maybe Brad will be back. Maybe we'll pull him off the course. Thanks for tuning in. Those that did tune in, get some sleep, and we will see you in the morning.
Good night, everybody.
Night.